I think you're
next
being
chapter
kind
here.
with relaxed.
Yes. Want to welcome in Jami Jones, managing editor of Landline Magazine, first to talk about a new petition from OOIDA regarding the English proficiency regulation. Jami, good to see you.
Hey, it's good to be here, Scott.
So it's no secret that there's been a lot of talk recently about that English proficiency requirement in trucking. We should probably start with just what that requirement is before we get into the latest here, because that's kind of the origin of all of this.
Yeah, it really is. And just to kind of frame it up on why this is even fired up as an issue, we've seen it so many times over the years that when freight rates go down, everybody from owner-operators to the mega fleets are looking to maximize their profits any way they can. And what we're seeing is a lot of the bigger carriers are taking those shortcuts. They're cutting corners. They're doing what they can. And so we have several avenues being utilized by these motor carriers to put cheap labor in their seats, that oftentimes complicates the issue with the English proficiency regulation. So back to your question, this all goes down to a regulation that's on the books, 391.11B2. And it says that a driver has to be able to read and speak the English language sufficiently to converse with the general public, to understand highway traffic signs and signals in the English language, to respond to official inquiries, and to make entries on reports and records. Now,
Right.
It's not a new regulation.
Right. It's been around for a long time.
Yes.
For decades.
Yeah, since 1936.
Yeah.
And really, you go back and track through the regulation, there haven't been significant changes. This has been an issue for for decades.
Right. But part of the issue, I think, around this is that CVSA has relaxed their out-of-service criteria a bit with relation to this, right?
Absolutely.
That's kind of
I think
the
you're
next
being
chapter
kind
here.
with relaxed.
Yes.
So in 2005, CVSA voted to make non-compliance with the English proficiency standard an out-of-service order. So if you were caught on the roadside and couldn't, handle a roadside inspection, couldn't do these things, you were going to be put out of service until your motor carrier could send a qualified driver to retrieve you in the truck.
Right.
So that's how it went. So they kept that on the books for a whole 10 years until 2015. And what we saw that year, Doug Morris actually reported to the OOIDA Board of Directors, because he attends these CVSA meetings, that the regulation, the English proficiency regulation, resulted in over 101,000 violations.
That's a lot.
That's a lot,
Yeah.
yeah. But only 4,000 and some change were actually put out of service. So rather than try and beef up that number, CVSA voted to remove the English proficiency regulation from the out-of-service criteria. So starting in 2015,
it's just not even
fair
considered.
Game. Yeah.
Which brings us to this petition from OOIDA to CVSA. Essentially, they're asking them to go back to what it was before, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you look at crashes that we've had in recent years, recent months even, but the big one in Colorado.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some question about his English proficiency, especially driving on
those mountainous roads.
Yes, with warning signs that maybe he could or could not read and things like that. Those are the situations that are very important that the drivers meet this regulation. It's about safety. Because, who wants to be going through a mix master in Chicago and trying to follow all the detour signs,
Sure, yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy. So, yes, OOIDA has an official petition in with CVSA asking them to put this back into the out-of-service criteria to begin enforcing it again. Again, we're not asking for anything new. We just want enforcement of regulations on the books. And that meeting, the spring meeting of CVSA, is going to happen late in April. So we will know more about how that petition fares after that meeting.
Yeah, and this is something, I've certainly heard a lot of complaints, a lot of concerns from drivers out there about this particular issue. And as you point out, and I think we need to continue to bring this back to it being a safety issue. That's ultimately what this comes down to for the most part, right? With all of this, is that it's a safety issue. You want to make sure the roads are safe.
Absolutely. I mean, the added benefit and the motivation behind putting these people in the seats and having them operate trucks without the ability to comply with this regulation, it's motivated by profits.
Right.
So when you can shut down the allure of cheap labor because they keep getting put out of service, that's where you start having the problem resolve itself ultimately.
Yeah, it's certainly a topic that we're going to hear more about. And as you mentioned there, we'll hear more in April, right, at the CVSA meeting as to how they respond to this petition. But again, it's not going away anytime soon. And I think this is something that makes a lot of sense for all parties involved, and we'll keep an eye on it. Jami, we appreciate your time as always, and we'll see you again soon.
Hey, you're welcome, Scott.